In this video, we're going to learn how to create this type of diagram. Massive shout out to the creator of this. I'm not trying to undermine their process. All I've done is taken steps that how I would approach such a diagram. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And what a way to really highlight your proposal. So very, very quickly, a video should just pop up here somewhere, just showing a very, very quick time lapse of how I've created this mega basic SketchUp model. The rendering program we're going to be using is Vray, and the reason being is it's got a real nice diagrammatic. Let me just call up the Chaos Cosmos. It's got this diagrammatic section, and I really like, you've got this kind of like chipboard material there. You've got the cork material as well. And I think, if we just give that a sec, I think that sort of chipboard material is a fantastic material to use for the bulk of the scene. So the reason I've sped up the modeling process is that I want this to be more about the creation of the diagram. So I wanted to kind of just get straight into the rendering elements. It's a very, very basic SketchUp model, and I'm sure that there's more detail in this model than in mine, but you should get the principles anyway. So to get straight into it, right, I want to create a dome light. So let me just go straight to full screen now. So a dome light is where you can create a HDRI. Oh, it doesn't really matter where you've got it. So let me just then jump to that. And we've got the light is kind of coming from the right hand side. So the reason I created a dome light is so I can then turn off the sunlight and bring in a HDRI again via Cosmos, and we want to go for a studio kind of setup. So let's just go for Studio 1, bring that in, copy and paste that as an instance into your dome light. Let's maybe increase the intensity to something like 4, and we want to hit use transform so that we can rotate our dome light and the light follows with. Let's go into our render settings, keep progressive turned on for now, crank it all the way to low, and let's go for a square aspect ratio, the old social media proportions. And I mean old as in it's old fashioned now, isn't it? It needs to be vertical, but let's just keep it to square anyway. And then there we are, but I say very, very, very basic. Now, one thing I've just been reminded of is we need to turn safe frame on so we know where we're rendering. And I think we want to show a bit more to the right, something like that. Let's update that scene. Let's then increase the, maybe not the intensity, let's increase the exposure. I always forget this. Is it the lower number, the brighter? Yeah, there we go. That's obviously ridiculous. Although, would it be better to, let's go 11 and let's drop the intensity. Let's put that back to 1. Now, I'm wondering whether, so that's how to bring in a studio light, but I'm wondering whether to try more of a sunlight, but maybe just with a softer shadow to it. Let's even try something like that. Bring that in, and it's a case of just copying it and then pasting it in the slot there. Let's see what that looks like. Very, very bright. So I think that's getting us closer to the result. So maybe we will scrap the studio light. At least you've seen that as an option. Let's maybe just lift that to 0.05. You don't want too harsh of a contrast between the light and dark, basically, in your image. Okay, spot on. Then what we want to do is we want to bring in that cork, sorry, the chipboard material. Although cork might work. Let's try a few options. So we'll bring that in, chipboard. And then what we want to do, we want to start by creating a material override. And there we are there, override material, chipboard. And that then just casts that material over the scene. But it looks like there's a wooden, it's a wooden sort of texture. So there's an example for chipboard. Let's see what the cork looks like. Just make sure we bring that in. I think that's better. That's given us something that's a little closer to that. But let's go to our material menu, sorry. And I want to just manipulate. There we go. Or is it that one? No, it is that one. Just want to make it a fraction lighter. And then, as an alternative, just to explore it, is there a wood? So we've got, there we go, maquette wood. A maquette is another name for like an architectural model. So let's see what the maquette wood does. Always good to just test and just try these things out. The only problem with the maquette wood is we need to be careful of the mapping of it. But it's not bad. So there's a few options, and we might even actually use let's say we'll use the cork for the roads, right? Because you want to, at the minute, it's not bad. You can see where we're headed with it, but we want to distinguish the roads themselves and a few other things. Let's just start with the road, right? So we'll go back to cork, and then the good thing about Vray for SketchUp is you can actually then just use SketchUp's own tools like the paintbrush, and let's increase the scale of it there. Let's go massive with it like that. And then you might be thinking, well, we've got the override turned on. So within the asset editor here, we can uncheck can be overridden. That will then give us the ability to, obviously override the fact that it's the entire scene's got a material override on it. So we then just hit render just to get a little test in, and there we go. There's our difference, if you like. But like, look at the car. How cool is that? The way it's looking like a little model car. So then what I want to do is I want to use the chipboard for these. So if I just click all them three, make them unique, just so I'm not editing the others. And same again, let's just make it a nice size. like so. And this isn't the exact finish that is on the example. You can spend a bit more time. Oh, there we go. You could spend a bit more time getting those materials spot on if you wish. So we've got that. And then we've got this lovely kind of grey. It's almost like a concrete. So let's go for that. Let's go for like a polished concrete look. Let's go for that. Same, yeah, so I've done that. Just making sure it was unchecked. The can be overridden. Let's then bring that concrete in. Same again, overridden. See if it lets us. There we go. That's probably a flatter material than this, I must admit. But that still looks quite nice. Let's manipulate this so it is lighter. So the diffuse map has just a slightly lower impact. Let's see where we're up to. So there we go. That's not too bad. Let's select this colour here, and then we'll just turn it to a Vray material. Turn off overridden. Let's make it fully metallic. Half gloss. And let's reapply that to this frame here. Additionally, let's bring in some glass. Just a basic, there we go, basic glass. Another alternative to replacing the material is to select it. Right click, select objects in scene, go back to your material, apply to selection, much easier. And then there's kind of like a timber material there that I think what we'll use is the maquette wood. Let's actually increase the size of that. Oversizing materials like this, I think it works well for this type of image. And that should have an impact on the overall override material. Let's see what it looks like. Now it hasn't fully worked. You can see there that it does have a better impact. Now a nice thing to do is select everything and just do, where is it? Set the mapping to world coordinates, which then should read so that hasn't worked. So what I'm tempted to do is just go through some of these and just apply the material within, because I think it will look quite nice to just have the wood on some, so it actually gives us an opportunity to create a bit of variation here. And just that one there, so that's fine, that'll do. Okay, so you can see now we're getting that wood texture. But what makes this very interesting, I think, is that there is a subtle line work to everything. So in order to create the line work, what we need to do is we need to create this outline override material. And you can see there, you've got the outline. So then what you need to do is you then need to select a base. So the maquette wood is our main override material. If we rename that to, let's just call that main override material, like so. In our override here, we then change it to that. And then we should get that line work on the scene, see? So then to do it the right way around, what we should have done earlier was you make multiple ones of these and you call it, you know, that one would be concrete outline. And then in the base, we then change it to that. And then it is just a case of just selecting that. Select objects, replace, where are we? Apply to selection, like so. This one here, same again, select objects, and then we can actually just apply to selection like so. And then just the last one is the chipboard outline. Let's then select that. Select objects in scene and replace with that one. There we go. We shouldn't need it for the roads because the other materials around it are doing that job. But even see the way the car has got a little bit of outline on it as well. And see the way we're getting that line work now as well, you know, between those kind of subdivisions there. And I wonder whether, does it register that line? No, it doesn't, so it must only be registering geometry. So if you're wondering, see the way you've got those like lines there, almost like representing kind of tile joints, which I think is very interesting. How to achieve that, you would really have to, let me just get in perspective mode, hide the rest of the model. Really what you would need to do is actually create geometry. So if I then just group that, delete the rest, make that a component, just call it a tile. I will just be a bit lazy and just fill that in for ease. And then we want to just give it a slight thickness. Where are we? And then you can see there how we've then created the lines, which I think is fantastic. I will just keep that to this one to just not drag the video out too long. realise they were slightly. In order to, little bonus tip here, in order to edit the scale in the orientation that you want, go into it and just change the axis, and then I can now manipulate that to suit the ridge of the roof. Okay, now I am aware that these things aren't, the materials aren't quite working, so let's just, where are we? Concrete outline, chipboard outline. The glass looks like it's on. Okay, there we go. We can reduce the density of the line work if I just show you the main override here. In outline, you can mess with the opacity, so maybe knock that to a 0.5. Make sure you're doing that with the others. Well, if you want that effect, obviously. 0.5, and the concrete one you might leave. You might actually leave the concrete one, make that a bit, you know, a bit chunkier, make sure it stands out. So you can see that's got a bit more of a subtle effect. And then for now, I think the only thing we're missing is we need to just put some cars and trees in. So let's just, I will just keep to the one tree. I will load in a couple of cars. Just for a tiny bit of variation. But for the tree, let's just go for something that's quite diagrammatic, so that'll do. It's just a case of distributing that round. And the beauty with this is we're not trying to make something that's photoreal, so the fact that it's all the same rotation isn't too bad. If if that was something you wanted to change, maybe you do mess with the rotation and the scale, but it's not imperative as it would be on something when you're trying to achieve realism. I'm based in the UK, so I'm going to make sure that they're on the left side of the road. Just make sure these are close to the curb because we are going to add a bit of line work in a sec. Let's make sure that's on view. There's no point in having it in. So that'll do. And with that master override, all of those things have got the override applied to them, so it all looks like it's made from a model. What I would suggest is that you do 2 render passes, one with the line work and one without, because obviously the tree it's too dense at the minute. The line work is too dense. So if you do one of each, you can then actually you can overlay the 2, which I will show you in a moment, and then you can just thin back that line work. The only last thing to do is let's pop a couple of lights. Spherical light will do. Behind the glass. Copying that like that. When you copy a V-Ray light, it automatically makes it an instance. Let's give it a bit of warmth, like the example, and then make sure that it's invisible, doesn't affect reflections and specular, and let's just see what we're looking at. Just doing a render region. That's quite nice. You can see the light coming through there. Do we go a bit bolder with it? 200. You get the idea. It's not the exact effect. You can see that there's been obviously there's been more time spent, but you get a little sense of it there. I've also just noticed that there is a bit of street furniture in front of, this is the use case for this is your proposal building, and you're highlighting it amongst a very almost like monochrome or a very static sort of surrounding to make your scheme pop. What would be nice is, let's see if we got like city, outdoor. Let's see if we've got, there we go. So let's pop just some seating, and we'll do a different type of tree in front. If you could spare the time as well, I would encourage you to add some people to the scene. I think that'll really add scale. I think there is a couple of people on this actually. A tree. Let's just add some people, just at random. Someone there. Someone there. And two people just walking in. Like that. And then what I want to do is I want to kind of tie this bench into that tree. I like that they've got the little base on them as well in the example. Something like that. Oh, where's that? Is that floating in space? Of course. I'm just hitting up there just so I know that on the Z axis it's in the right area. Let's maybe even add a couple of benches. There we go. Much better. Okay, well, that's it for the rendering part. Let me render off the one with the line work and one without. And in order to do the one without, you do have to just jump back into the override material and just swap it for the one without the outline override on it. So I'm going to render those two passes, and then we're going to just jump into Photoshop to make just to add in some of this line work and the labeling. I think that just really finishes it off. A quick one, I should have said, just a quick run through the settings. Turn progressive off, quality to high, and resolution, let's do 2000. That is, it's good enough. It'll get us to a point where it's a lot crisper, it's a lot more legible. I would also actually turn the denoiser on and set it to mild first and then custom, and just drop that to say a 0.3. We don't want too much denoising. You do lose a bit of detail. So let's render those two passes as I explained, and I'll see you in Photoshop. We're in Photoshop, and I've rendered the two images. If I can be completely honest with you, I think the denoiser has washed the textures out too much, but we'll recover that a little later on. You know, to be more critical as well, I suppose we could have added maybe more reflections to the proposal. I do think it feels like it's got a bit more glossiness in the example, but you know, these are little tweaks, little refinements. I hope you know what you're learning here is is techniques that you can take into your own projects and spend more time on. Anyway, we've got our two overlays, as I mentioned, or two images. So all I want to do here is, with this one selected, I just want to rub out the trees like that. Nice and simple. So it's just a good way of using the two renders really to just pick and choose what you want to have line work around and what you don't. You can see here that now the trees are much more legible. So just a few more. I just want to be careful I don't rub line work out anywhere else. Okay, let's just do a little save as. Sometimes Photoshop does like to crash. Okay, so there we go. There's our base. I now just want to flatten that. And then filter, just a very quick little pass with the camera raw filter. Just want to increase the contrast, reduce the highlights, lift the shadows. And say just a tiny little bit of tweaking here, maybe a little bit of vignette, and then it's this slider here that'll just add that little bit of texture back in. See that grain, that overall grain on the image? I think it makes it all feel like a model. So let's go for something like 15. Don't want to go too mad with it. You can see now that that's just, I think it's just brought that little bit of something back to the shot. Okay, so now what we want to do to finish this off is we want to add those diagrammatic elements. The first one being the road markings. Now, to not bore you to death, I won't do absolutely every road marking. I'll just do a few. Now, when you open the pen tool, you'll be met with, over here, path. And the path is good because what you can do is you can change your brush settings. You can increase the hardness, increase the spacing, new layer obviously. Stroke path, change that to brush, and then you can do something like that. But that doesn't quite achieve what we want with the road markings. What you want to do is change this drop down to shape. Again, I have just been messing with it. It's set to 0 pixels like that. And let's draw a line from there to there. And then you change the color to white, the thickness, like so. Let's maybe just do 2 pixels. Sorry, the stroke wants to be set to white. And then you've got 3 options, and we want to go for that middle one there. How good is that? We then want to do a new layer, and I'll just do another one like that. And it then remembers the setting of the last one. I want to then, I'll merge, I'll rasterize. Oh, that hasn't quite worked. Let's just rasterize them first. Then merge. There we go. Let's drop the opacity to say 50%, something like that. And then same again, there are more sophisticated ways of doing this, but just for ease, get the rubber out like that. And then just rub areas out where the line work will be sat behind. Like so. Maybe just use the lasso tool. So there we go. You get the idea there. And then the street names, I quite like that as well. I'll just do one and show you how to do it. So I'm just trying to think of a street name. I've just been watching the snooker, so let's just call it Ronnie Ronnie Street. And then same again, rasterize, just so we've got full control. Rasterize type. And it's a case of just holding control on the corners, like so. And then you can just alter the perspective then like that. And again, I know that I'm not doing this perfectly. And there are slicker ways you can do match perspective and stuff like that. But see now, that's a good thing to notice. A good thing to note that once you make the change, it doesn't quite give you the same handles the second time round. So get it right first time is the message. Axos are easier to match because it isn't perspective. So again, that isn't absolutely perfect, but you get the idea. And then same again, 50%. We could go, maybe go higher than that, 75. But you get the idea there. So again, you can see how you can, would you duplicate that? I don't think so. Yeah, I didn't think that would quite look right. So you'd have to do it each time and just suit the angle it's on. But you could do one up here, and then that could replicate down there. Although you would need to rasterize it, wouldn't you? So I think you would have to do that quite manually actually to change the obviously the content of the typography each time. But you get the idea anyway. And then the last one is the this labeling. I do quite like as well. Similar, where we will use the pen tool in shape mode. Shoot that up there. And then I'd be tempted to, in our shape area here, use the ellipse. Oh, so the way the settings were, there they are. So we don't want any edges to it. There we go. With those two, you can just hit Control J now and just duplicate like so. Like that. And the labels do just look like they're just 90 degrees. So let's just... So you could do 90 or 270. It's not quite working. Minus 90, of course. There we go. And then just duplicate that around. And that's how you'd label it as well. As a little bonus, or couple of bonus tips, I would be tempted, I'm going to do this quite roughly, so bear with me, but I'd be tempted to duplicate that and perhaps make it brighter so your proposal really stands out. My OCD isn't quite letting me settle on that. Just invert the selection. So that's quite nice because you could, well, I mentioned that it wasn't quite grey enough and reflective enough. You could do something like that. You could lift the brightness. So that's good to use. And then on top of that, if I just make another layer, and this time I will use the path mode of the pen. Something I do on all my diagrams is a nice chunky line. Let's go back to our brush, bring the spacing down so that it's solid. Black outline. Something nice and chunky like that. Maybe even rub out like so. There we are. Actually, we have to make sure that's sat below the label line there. Not bad, eh? Hasn't took us long at all as well. So hopefully that inspires you with a different technique for your own projects. And as always, if you've got any queries, drop me an email at adam@archademia.com. And if you want to learn more about software, design, project management, starting a business, all that lovely stuff, please head over to ArchAdemia.com to find out more. We've got 2 very competitively priced membership models, and one comes with mentoring and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully this has helped. And yeah, if you want to learn more, drop us an email, drop us a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.